Hey, my friends, this is Bill McDonald, the Writing Doctor, and I want to welcome you to our first READ-VISING video. And it's going to be a combination of teaching reading skills along with revising. In a nutshell, reading is at the sentence, paragraph, and passage level, understanding the content. Revising is taking that content and improving it by adding and removing the following. So if you see the hand here, that's going to be the content. Either the thumb will be an introduction, the three fingers being the body, and the pinky being the conclusion. Or if that's one paragraph, the thumb would represent the topic sentence. The three fingers would be the specific supporting sentences, and the pinky would be the conclusion. And you will notice that I have a space on the right hand side to add 2 or 3 more fingers in case there's more paragraphs or more sections or more sentences that the question is talking about. Okay, so everything inside there is pretty much either understanding the content, or one of these is missing and you're having to add, remove, or replace using the acronym A.R.M. So the second half of the graphic organizer of page 3 or 4, you'll see an A.R.M. that has the words with bracelets. A, green for add, put something in. Red and green for red remove and green replace. And move when they ask you for the most effective or best way to revise something. The revision is just changing the order or organization. And a lot of people use the S for substitute, but so far I haven't seen it, so you'll just remember, use what could best remove and replace either one word in revising, one phrase, one transition in one of these forms, and they're color coded, a cause and effect relationship in reading and revising, an action versus a reaction. Notice that cause also says why and reason. So if they ask you why somebody did something, that means that they gave you the effect, the result, and they just want to know the reason why they did something. So it's important that your kids understand that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So as you're transitioning and reading and revising, you have to figure out what relationships the two sentences or the two paragraphs have together using what I call a transition, also known as a transmission, that gets a car to move from one place to another. And a sentence is a transition, needs a transition to move from one sentence to another, or one paragraph using a teeter transition totter, or see transition saw. There's compare, contrast transitions, conflicts that lead to resolutions, and something with something more in addition, etc. Okay? So if we're doing revising, we're looking at that left side for a lot of those words and a lot of reading things. The other arm, if you look at it, if you think because life happens at full speed and reading and writing happen in slow motion, one detail at a time, slow life down and use another arm, actors, remember, more story sequence, or the other green, artist, remember, more setting, or what we call the 5 senses. So either acting out the story or drawing a picture of things that you see will help us understand some of the things that are important. And so as you see, the ladder goes from simple to complex to adding a sentence, and then adding things to an entire paragraph or things to an entire passage. So what we'll do is we'll work our way from bottom to top. And so our first one is to take a look at a word for revising. And usually what's going to happen is the word is too vague. And the reason it's red there is because they want to replace it with something that's more specific or more precise to the meaning, the content. If in reading they ask you for a word, you'll have to check the context in the sentence and then compare it to the dictionary definition that they give. So let me just give you an example of a word. If I say to you, 4 words, if I say to you, a certain space in the room, go to a space in the room. Well, you won't know exactly where to go because the word space is too vague. Go to a location, that's not even any better. If I say go to the left side of the room, well, at least we're going to be on the left side, but that could be anywhere on the half to the middle of the room to every single location on the left. So if I say to you, go to the corner of the room by the door next to the flag that's hanging down. That's very specific vocabulary. And so whether it's a word or a phrase, we would want to replace any vocabulary that's too vague and replace it with more specific. So when you're looking at a word and reading, you have to make sure, and these, because you're only looking at one sentence, and usually you can tell within that sentence, look at how the word is used in the sentence, then look up the dictionary to find its definition, to find its part of speech, and you'll be able to find some examples. And so that would be the first one that we're going to do. And as we progress up this arm, we'll be talking about revising and reading when it comes to phrases, transitioning when it comes to looking at the revision by just changing orders of the words to make more sense, all of the transition relationships between sentences and paragraphs, combining sentences, and there's a saying that I'll teach you, come together right now. So you'll have 2 consecutive sentences, one on the left, the keywords, the hashtag, one on the right, and then you decide which one of the 4 choices do they give us that does the best job of combining sentences without repeating, without run-ons, without changing the meaning or content. And then they'll always ask us to add 1 sentence at the most to an entire paragraph or to an entire passage. Sometimes it will just be to create a topic sentence or a main idea that would be about a paragraph. Sometimes it would be just a sentence to add for specific support in a paragraph. Sometimes there'll be one of these hard ones, which is why these are on the top. They'll have a central idea in reading, or they'll ask you for a central idea in revising. They'll have all of these, the focus, the summary of all, or the summary of some of it, a specific section. My most recent graphic organizers have the word section right there, or selection, because I felt like that was being added a lot these last couple of years. You're going to either see the thesis, position, or main idea and topic sentence, or they'll ask you to add one or remove one that's too vague or not specific to the content and put one that's more specific. The CIS stands for what's the central idea statement that's there, or what is a central idea statement that could be added, or the other CIS could be what is the controlling idea statement that's there or the one that could be added. And so these fingers could be used for paragraph numbers, fingernails, or you can use them for sentence numbers. You can also use inferring to read between the lines, between the fingers. There's also a little box over here. What box sentence could move? Whenever you're moving a box sentence, that means that content has to fit in one location. And so we'll take you through some examples of all of those reading related ideas and revising related ideas, starting down here at the bottom with how to do word choices that are too vague to specific, and word definitions based on context or how they're being used, and picking the best dictionary definition so that your students could have the best chance for success. So I always recommend in reading and revising to have your kids look carefully at the questions, because as I mentioned in my previous revising video, when they only ask you about one sentence, they said, which sentence of the 4 that they give you shows that the story was being written in first person. And so all your students had to do was read the 4 sentences that were in the choices, the 4 sentences only, and they had to decide which one is in first person. And so when you look up here at what I call the palm of the hand, you see purpose, prompt, point of view. So they were asking, what point of view is in first person of the 4 sentences that you see? And so I'll show you, these are things that you're going to learn from throughout the entire year, not in 1 week or 1 day, of course. It's just a colorful graphic organizer that will be very helpful when you're doing any reading questions. So I'll refer to them several times when I'm helping you with some of the most difficult questions from the previous year. So that's what our READ-VISING graphic organizer looks like. The other thing I want you to notice is the acronym ties. Whether you're doing a revising passage or a reading passage and even an editing passage, everything ties together. So if you look at those words, and I'll just kind of read them through them quickly, the title, the topic sentence, the transitions, and the tense all ties together with the instructions. Is the purpose to inform? Look at the introduction, it has a purpose. Look at the ideas or the main ideas. Do we need to ever infer for reading? Is our purpose to entertain with events, to do expository with explain and examples, to have an ending of a passage or an ending of a paragraph, to make sure that on stories that we have specific supporting sentences. Are we talking about, like I mentioned above, a selection or a section, because those are all talking about main ideas. So when you touch the middle of this pretend hand and you wiggle your muscles, you'll be able to feel all the muscles moving. But if you only touch your thumb and then start wiggling all your muscles, you're only going to be able to feel the movement here. So that wouldn't be a good central idea or focus or theme or summary of a whole passage. That would be only a summary of some of it, as mentioned in this part right here. Okay, so a good topic sentence to add over here at the beginning of a paragraph would be about everything. A good main idea would be about everything in the paragraph. A good summary would be about the introduction, the body, and conclusion, etc. So the hand is basically the reading content and the higher level rigorous things, and the arm is the things where you're only going to be focusing on a couple of sentences, which we will start from there, and we'll basically look at this ARM as climbing a ladder from basic concepts to the more rigorous concepts, but I'm going to try my best to make it as interesting as possible for you and your students to be able to combine the reading and the revising worlds. That concludes our introduction. I hope that you have a little bit of an understanding of how we're going to merge those worlds so that we can many times kill two birds with one stone, go connect two mountains with one bridge, if that makes sense. We're going to use one graphic organizer to be able to cover both reading and revising. So thank you for purchasing this. I'm going to try and be the best help I can to you using any types of questions. If you send me a question that is either a reading question or a revising question through Messenger, take a picture of it, and I will show you using this graphic organizer how to answer the question. And if it's not something I can use here, I usually have a strategy that can help you if the arm and hand strategy doesn't work. So I'd be happy to help you through email, through Messenger, or in any other way that you want to connect with me. So God bless and have a nice day.